Hey everybody, welcome to Live Coding with Jesse. I'm Jesse, and today we're going to do some styling and some UI changes to make this app look a little nicer. As you can see, there's no video right now, so I don't know why. I moved, so I moved into my new house. I unplugged everything, moved all my computers over, plugged it back in, and my webcam now does not work. So I'm installing some stuff from the manufacturer that hopefully will help. It says it's going to finish in about a minute, so the video may turn on. It may not, but y'all don't watch this for my face anyway. So let's get started. As long as you can see the screen and hear me, I think that's that's good enough. I'm gonna check real quick and see what everyone's saying in the chat. Hey everybody, see a lot of people just saying hi. How's it going? Okay. Let's bring up the app first so that everybody who hasn't seen it yet can at least see it. Also, sorry, the installation just finished, so let's see. Oh, okay. No, I don't want to sign up for this. Okay. Wow. Alright, so I don't think that did anything because nothing happened. Hey, we've got something. That's weird. Huh. There we go. It works. Alright. Let's move it over so it's in the right spot. There we go. Okay. So, I guess it was just a driver or something. You can see my background has changed. So, this is my new place. I'm thinking about getting a fish tank back there. So, I have a fish tank with some goldfish. I haven't moved it yet. So, I don't know. Let me know what you think if you want to see my goldfish behind me. Anyway, all right, let's get started. So I do want to give a shout out to Chris, who did a awesome pull request. Ooh. So let's do get pull. This is gonna pull down all those changes from the pull, so you can see like the code changed immediately there. So this is a decently significant pull request, especially considering the project's still small. This is quite a few changes, so thank you, Chris. We're also going to do yarn. This is a good practice anytime you start a project, or I'm sorry, anytime you're working on a project, first thing you should do is do a get pull. As soon as you start working on it in the morning, do a get pull, and then run yarn or npm install. That way you have the latest changes and the packages, right? Like, I've forgotten this before, and I start working, realize I don't have the latest changes, and then there's like merge conflicts and stuff, or I do remember to pull, but I don't remember to run yarn and install the packages, and then I get all these errors, and for a second I'm freaking out before I realize that, oh, I just didn't install the new packages. So let's start this up, that way we could see the app. So we'll be able to see it. And also, let's go to the pull request. So the issues, now there's only 2 issues left. I'm sure we'll be able to add some more, but we're going to close pull requests and check out this one, right? So I'm not going to go through all of this just so that we have time for coding, but check this out. The link to the repo is in the description, so you can check out. But basically, this fixes 2 problems. One, we had said that we don't want the user to get the same question in a row, like the exact same question twice in a row. Also, we don't want, when you're doing subtraction, we don't want subtraction to result in a negative number, at least not in the first level. Also, it found some bugs that I didn't realize were happening and fixed those as well. So that's awesome. You can check that out there. You can check out all the files that have changed. Add a little bit to the prettier config, which is nice. I'll probably set up some like automatic linting so that anytime anyone tries to commit code, it'll auto lint it. And let me know if you want to see how to do that. I can do it on a stream. Otherwise, maybe I just try to do it, on my own and just have it set up. But it is kind of a cool setup. I usually do it for all my projects, and it avoids having like weird commits where you have it looks like you have a lot of changes, but they're not really changes. It's just like formatting things, like a semicolon or not using a semicolon or weird spaces. So anyway, I had some questions about that auto lint. So when I say like auto linting and auto formatting, I just mean like as soon as you would do like a git commit, there'd be a pre-commit hook that would run, and it would go through all your code. It would check it to make sure the syntax is correct according to rules that we set up. And then if it's possible for it to just automatically change your code to use the rules we set up, it will do that. So it's pretty cool. It keeps a nice standard, and it makes it so that if you want to contribute to this project, you don't have to learn all the rules. You just code how you like to code, and then whenever you go to commit, it'll change it all. And it looks like there is some interest. So yeah, I'll definitely show you how to do that. Maybe on the next stream, that's what I'll do. So yeah, it's a cool little setup. And let's see. I lost my train of thought. What were we doing? Oh, I wanted to show everybody the app. Okay, just so you know, the way this is going to go, we're going to do a little bit of coding, and then I'm going to take a break, and we're going to answer some questions. And then at the end, I'll try to answer all the remaining questions. So if you have questions and they're in the chat and I haven't got to them, I will get to them in a bit, probably in about, 20 minutes or so, maybe less. I'll go back to the chat. All right, but this is the game, right? So I'm sorry if there's a lot of background noise. My kids are all getting ready for school. They're about to leave, so I don't know how much of that the mic is picking up.
Hi, Dada.
Hey, buddy. You want to say hi?
Hi.
I don't know if they can see you up there. Say hi.
Hi.
All right. Have a good day at school, bud. Yeah, so I'm just in my basement right now. Eventually, I'm going to build like a legit office and hopefully soundproof it, but just moved in last week. So anyway, these are the styles. We do have different colors for each mode, right? But we just threw these in here. This is definitely not how I want it to look. I still am not exactly sure how I want it to look, but I think there's some improvements that could be made. So first thing I want to do is open up DevTools, right? So if you're not familiar with DevTools, this is your best friend as a web developer. DevTools will allow you to inspect things on the page, see the code, make changes. Basically, they're like previews of changes that only you can see. Hey, Raphael, I'm live streaming, bud. One of my sons was back there just like moving all these boxes. So what I want to do is see how this will look on a device, because eventually we want to make this run on a mobile device as well as on a desktop. So we haven't actually checked to see how this would look on a device. So let's just, I don't know which one I'll pick. Let's pick a small one just to get an idea. So this actually isn't terrible. I kind of thought it would be worse since we hadn't had this in mind at all. But it fits. Wow, that's that's cool. It actually fits. Okay. So just looking at this right now, I think for sure the numbers need to be bigger and the buttons need to be bigger. I think the hero character that's here and the enemy characters that are here can definitely be smaller. So the perspective, this is a children's game, right? So their attention is going to be drawn to this, when in reality, like this, there's no interactions they can take here, right? So we're drawing the user to an area that they can't actually do anything with. So I think we can shrink this. So this stream is going to be a little bit of design and dev together, right? So I'm a software engineer. I've done design before a bit, but I'm not primarily a designer. So usually I just jump in and start coding and then figure out the design as I go along. So if this were a real project on a real team, we'd probably have a designer already do the design, right? So let's see what this looks like when we shrink these up and make this bigger. All right, and I want to make sure anything that a user would click is really big, right? Because it's going to be a kid's game. Their dexterity is not going to be as good maybe as the average user, potentially. So we want to make sure they don't accidentally click in the wrong spot. So right here I can see like the submit button needs to be bigger and there needs to be more space, right? So let's do that now. Like, so since we're in DevTools, we can try some things out here without actually even touching our real code. So let's click on some of these. Actually, it might be easier in this case. So like in the case of the numbers, we can definitely make them bigger. Let's see. So we can see all the properties that are currently on, like the CSS properties that are currently on this. We have the font size at 28 pixels. So that actually is, seems pretty big, but as we can see, like it doesn't actually look that big on that phone. So if we click that, it'll show us where in the code we have that 28 pixels. Now, unfortunately, since we're doing this with React Native Web and it's coming through, it won't allow us to edit directly in line. If this was just a normal web app, we could. So we're gonna have to override it, and let's go with 40 pixels. It's gonna seem pretty crazy to do 40 pixels, but I think it'll be good. Actually, this is not going. Because of the way the styles get split up, I can't target a style, so let's just go back to our code really quick. In this case, I think it might be easier to just mess with our code directly. Normally, it is not. So we do have all our styles down here. And I forgot we were using Comic Sans. We may change that. I think since it's a kid's game, it might work. Okay, so our character has a width of 80 and 80. Let's cut that down, right? Let's give that 40. And now our math container, our math row. So our math row has a padding on the bottom of 8. Let's bump that up to 16. Okay, and then our text size, 28, we'll bump that up to 40. And we do have our inputs of this border color. I believe this is our input for let's give it a 60. Let's make it just a square. We'll give it a height and width of 60. I didn't finish my thought, sorry. That's our input to put the answer to the question. So let's save all that and then see what it looks like now. Okay, so definitely different. We now have bigger text here. We have more space. I forgot to make the submit button bigger. And is this okay? So we didn't actually make the text bigger in here, so we need to do that. And let me check my time to make sure. I forgot to start my timer, so what? I started at 7:30, so we've been about 20 minutes now. All right, let me just get just a few more minutes, and then I'm gonna go to the live chat and read through the chat. Okay. All right, so for now, let's make the button a bit bigger, and we'll make the text inside the input match with this text. Oh, don't let me forget, I need to check out Cypress. So our testing suite has now changed from using Puppeteer to using Cypress. So I want to give you all a preview of that, and I forgot to last time, and I want to try to do it for sure this time. So that was an addition from Harshit, who I haven't seen in the chat today, so I don't think he's here, but he's been a big contributor to my streams for a long time, for like over a year. Let's see. Where is our button? I don't think we have any styles for our button. So we're gonna have to go up here and see what we can do here. Oh, okay. So we actually have the default styles for a button. So let's look up in the the React Native documentation what the styles are for button. So if you're doing a React Native project, I definitely recommend just leave the React Native docs open on your tab, on one of your tabs, because I reference it so much. There's just no point in me even closing it. So here's the button. You can see I'm pretty sure we just copied this exactly. But what I want to see is all the props. On press, title, accessibility, color, disabled, test ID, preferred focus. Okay, so here's our props, but what I want to see is what kind of styles we could actually give this. Which, I don't know. Let's see. Let's just add some styles and see if we can give it one. We may have to switch it up. So you can use touchable opacity or touchable native feedback to give your button some custom styles. So we may have to switch up to that. That's what I normally end up using anyway. But for now, let's just see if we can do this. So I'm just going to do an inline style just as a test. So we're going to add style. So in React Native, if you want to do an inline style, you can. You want to use an object, right? So we're doing style. We're putting our curly brackets, which means, hey, we're about to do some JavaScript. And then inside of there, we have another set of curly brackets, which is just normal JavaScript, right? It just says, like, this is an object. Okay? And then now we're going to do CSS as if we were writing, so like we're converting our normal CSS into JavaScript object syntax, right? So we're going to camel case everything. It's key value pairs, right? So in this case, let's just say height. If I can spell it, H-E-I-G-H-T, height. And we're going to give it something crazy so we just know. we know that it works, right? So type 200. So this would be obvious if it works. And it didn't, right? So it looks like we're going to have to change that, and we can't actually add a height to a button. If there is some way to add height to a button, let me know in the chat. But according to the documentation, it didn't look like we could. I was hoping there'd be like some props, but it seems like the only thing you can really change style-wise is the color. Okay, so I'm just going to click on touchable opacity so it's there, and we can check that out. And if anybody wants to read ahead, I'm going to put this in the chat, the link to touchable opacity. If you've never used it before, you can check out the docs. Basically, you're just making something clickable in React Native, and you can give it whatever styles you want. All right, and I'm gonna take a 5-minute break here. So I'm gonna set my Pomodoro timer to 5 minutes. I'm gonna go to the chat and I'm gonna answer some questions. Okay, so I'm scrolling, just seeing a lot of people saying hi at first. Charming Mohammed says, this is a very good thing. Thank you. Oh, you're welcome. I appreciate that. Akeem says, is this a React thing? Yes. So it's React Native Web. So it's all React Native syntax, but we're actually running it as a web app. If you want to know why we're doing it like that, watch like the first 2 streams, and I explain more of the benefits of doing that. Eric says, how can I find your JavaScript beginner tutorials? So I haven't done a lot of tutorials myself. It's mostly live streams, and some streams are more beginner friendly and some streams aren't. It just depends on what we're working on that day. But there are some awesome beginner JavaScript tutorials on this channel, on the freeCodeCamp channel. If you do want to see my tutorials, check out my channel. The link's in the description. I don't do as much with my personal YouTube channel. I'd love to do more. Just hard to find the time, but I do have some tutorials on there for beginners. Let's see. Jalal says, smile more, bro, you look better, right? All right, I'll try to smile more. Vedant says, bro, I love this channel. Oh, thanks. Yeah, the freeCodeCamp channel is awesome. And I'm not just talking about my stream. There are so many really, really good contributors, and just the variety and quality of content on this channel is, it's really amazing, and it's impressive that no one's getting paid to do this. It's all volunteer, so it's really cool, and it's helped a lot of people to get their skills up and get jobs, including me. Charming says, pulling in and installing Yarn before anything in the morning is good advice. Been a victim of such. Trust me, you don't want to go through the work before you pull. Yeah, for sure. Okay. Belizari Angelo. I'm sorry, I probably messed your name up. Let me know how I'm supposed to pronounce it. But it says I can anime that. I'm not sure what you're for. Are you offering to animate something? And so let me know what you're, because I'm not exactly sure what you're saying. Yeshu asks if I have any plans to work on Vue.js projects. Not right now. I'm curious about Vue, but I don't have any immediate plans to work on them. Maybe I'll do it at some point. Creative Girl says, hi, which one do I have to learn? Flexbox, CSS Grid, or maybe Bootstrap? I have no idea when to use them. Okay, that's a good question. There are some answers there. Coding Technique says, I think Flexbox is easier. Ismail says, I will go with Bootstrap, but just know little Flexbox. Okay, so they're not exactly comparable, right? So Bootstrap is an entire CSS library that's you bring in. It's CSS and JavaScript, and there's a lot of built-in classes that you can use to style an entire app. or a website. Flexbox is a part of CSS, and so is Grid. So it's a part of just normal CSS. You don't have to import anything extra, and it's used for positioning, right? So back in the day, people used tables for positioning, or we used floats for positioning, but Flexbox gives you a nicer way to position. Like for instance, you can vertically center things on a page very easily with Flexbox, right? That was always really hard to do before, and not that it was impossible, but it was just more difficult. Grid is another way to align things on a page. So it's not exactly comparable. So like if you learned all of Bootstrap, you could style an entire site. If you learned Flexbox, you could just position things, but you couldn't really style things. So I say definitely if you want to do React Native, then you need to know Flexbox. Because Flexbox is the default positioning system for React Native. So I definitely recommend using Flexbox. That's what we use. And like Bootstrap's not always going to be available to you. So, try to learn the regular CSS. It'll be easier to work on a variety of sites. If you know CSS, Bootstrap should be easy to pick up because it's just basically giving you chunks of pre-written CSS attached to classes that you can add to your site. So if you really know CSS, you'd be able to understand all of Bootstrap just by looking at the CSS files and kind of know what's happening and be able to change it up and like customize it to what you need. Okay? Does that make sense? Let me know if it doesn't. All right, didn't get through everything, but let me go back to. All right, here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna say, I'm gonna mark down here where I left off. 7:46. I need to like adjust the tilt of my screen or something. It's really hard to see. I need new screens, period. I'm using some old screens that I've just gotten from people like when they're getting rid of their screens. Okay, so how much time do we have? Okay, so we have about a half hour left. So here's what I'd like to accomplish in that half an hour. I want to get the styling. So I want to get this button a little bit bigger, commit these new styles. I'm not, like, obviously we're not finished with the styling, but this is just a little bit of some updates. I want to demo Cypress for testing, and then I want to finish the rest of the questions. Okay, so that's the plan. So let's switch this up to use touchable opacity first. So we can see with touchable opacity, obviously instead of using button, we're replacing it with this, but then also we can put things inside of it. And in fact, we need to put things inside of it. So let me show you what I mean. So right now our button, we can say like the title is submit. And look, there's nothing, there's no children to this button. When we switch it to touchable opacity, if we did this, nothing would appear on the page. Right, so we need to give it children, for instance, to say like, hey, here's what you should display inside of this button. All right, so let's switch that up now. We'll go to the top of the file, and where we have button, let's change it to touchable opacity. Should have changed up here too. Yep. Okay, we're going to change it to touchable opacity. Now I know I'm going to need something in here, and I will need text. And let's say, oh wait, is this our, oh, this was our restart button. Oh, I changed the wrong thing. I forgot I totally forgot we had a restart button. All right, let's do that again. Let's keep button in there because I don't want to mess with the restart button right now, just because I want to finish on time, right? So let's touchable opacity. Now let's find the right button this time. Where are we at? Okay. Whoa, actually, did we? Yeah, this is what we did. For a second, I was like, have we been working on the wrong button the whole time? But I don't think so. All right, so touchable opacity. Now we're going to say text, submit, and then we're going to close out touchable opacity. Okay, now let me just say, so we'll just see what shows up on the page now before we do anything else. So you can see it's just a button, right? So it should still work. So like, right, there's no and you know what I just thought of? We should not allow a submit if there's nothing in here. I could see that being really frustrating for a child if they accidentally hit submit and haven't even put anything in there, and then another enemy comes like that. Especially if a child is really struggling with their math and they're like almost beat it and they know what the answer is and they just accidentally hit submit, like that could be devastating for a little kid, right? Like, so let's make that happen so that we check to make sure that basically if there is nothing in this box, we don't allow a submit. All right, we're not going to do that right now, but let's just keep that in mind and add that in at some point. If somebody wants to make an issue for that, feel free to make an issue. I'll try to remember and make an issue for it later. Okay, so we need to style this submit button, right? So you could see like our color, you know, that's not gonna work, right? We do still want to keep this test ID. I believe the title is not gonna matter here. We can double check that there is no title attribute. Let's see if it shows us. Yeah, so our props here, style, active opacity. Yeah, okay. Actually, this is kind of weird. Why do we have... It's weird that they don't list on press under this. I guess maybe they're just like assuming that you would have that. But anyway, we can remove... Where are we at? Oops, here's our code. We can definitely remove the color. Let's give this a style though. Style equals, and let's say styles dot, we'll just call this button for now. I know we have more than one button, but we'll just say styles dot button, and I'm gonna group this. I'm gonna put this under input since it appears under the input. All right, so we need to give this like a height, a width, a background color, right? So let's say our height is going to be at 40 pixels. So we always want to at least go 40 for touches. You know, let's go, let's at least bump it up to 50, right? I want to make this bigger than you would normally make it for an adult. Like I said, I know kids' fingers are smaller, but they may be a bit more clumsy. Okay, button height, width. Let's just go with width like 100 for now. Let's see how it looks, and then background color. We can give it that same color that we had. I'm not like a huge fan of that color, but I don't really have any other color in mind, so we may as well just use it. Okay, let's see what that gives us now. Hey, look, we've got a button. Okay, you can see like, look, it's still just totally bare bones. The submit is not even centered. So let's work on this submit as well. Oops. Yeah. Okay. So we can actually set this to display. I don't know if I don't think I need to put display flex on here, but let's see. So let's say justify content, center and align items. Oops. Center. So this is Flexbox. So this is what I'm talking about when I say Flexbox makes vertically aligning things easy. So this is going to vertically and horizontally center submit, hopefully. Let's see. Yep, here we go. So now it was up here. Now it is both vertically and horizontally centered. So easy, especially if you remember everything that you had to go through to make this happen before Flexbox. So much easier. All right, now we want to make our text a little bit more readable. So we're definitely going to give it a color of, let's just say white for now. Oops. All right, so FFF is going to give us white. That's the hex code. And let's make the font size. So the button itself is what, 50? So let's make our font size 40. Definitely don't want it to be bigger. And let's see what it looks like. Oops, we didn't apply it to the text. So on the text here, let's say style equals styles dot button text. Whoa, okay. We need to make that wider. And okay. Yeah, definitely need to make it wider. And probably taller. Yeah. Alright, so the button now is 100. Let's double it to 200. And let's make its height 60. Okay, that's more reasonable. It's still not like a spectacular looking button, but it does have a little effect, right? It has this little kind of flash thing, right? And it still works. All right. I tell you the truth, like I'm not thrilled with the way this button turned out, but it allows us to customize it. So we can further customize this as we need to, right? Let's see. Yeah, that I'm kind of thinking that the submit button is like dominating the page now. I do want to keep track of my time. Okay, but I think I'm at a point now where I want to commit this and then check out the testing suite so that I have enough time to get to the like the messages, the chat messages. Okay, so if you're totally a beginner and you're not really familiar with version control, we're using get. Okay, so we have get status, and that tells us what's changed, right? We've only really worked on one file, right? So that's to be expected. And now we're going to do a get commit, and I'm going to give it an AM flag, okay? and then I'm going to put the commit message. So I'm going to say feature. This is like a terrible message, but we just adjusted styles, right? So let's commit that, and now we can do a git push, right? And that's going to push that up to GitHub, right? Okay. So that's like very, very basic of using Git. You commit and then you push. Now we basically have a save point for our code that we could always go back to that point later on. So if we totally mess things up in the next stream, it's okay because we could always go back to this point. All right, now let's check out our package JSON for a second and see that we have this E2E script. All right, and that's going to open up Cypress and run some tests. Okay, so let's check this out. So we're going to run yarn E2E. And like I said, I haven't really used Cypress yet. So Harshit set this up. I think it's really cool. I did run it once just to see what it did. But it's definitely something that I want to learn more about because it's pretty cool. So while this is doing its thing, which, why is this taking? There we go. So you can see this is definitely different than what we had in the test before. Before, our tests would just run and display some things here in the console, but this is bringing up this whole UI, right? So it says here's our tests, here's our file, right? Oops. This is the following places. Cool. All right, so I click that, and now it's running. I didn't mean to actually run them, but so I clicked on that file, and you can see it's run all the tests in that file. So we only have one file with the test. I'm assuming if we had more, it would show all the tests, and we could run them all at once if we wanted. Okay, but if you saw some flashes up on the screen of basically it was running this and going through the motions of clicking everything. And it says we can see a title, we can see hero, and we get the, if we do a correct addition answer, it reduces the enemies by 1, right? So we don't have a lot of tests in there, but it's kind of cool to have a UI as well. I know some of the people I work with on my team are way more familiar with UI stuff as opposed to like doing things through the command line. So it definitely could be helpful to be able to have that visual of this. So we could see no recorded runs. Yeah, so there's a lot of stuff in here that I haven't even messed with. Wow, okay, so there's all your settings in here. So, I mean, this is really cool. So definitely check this out if you need to do React testing. Wow, really cool. All right. So I'm not going to go more into that yet because I myself don't know that much about it. So I'd rather not mislead you, but I promised Harshit that I would demo it. So definitely, check that out. It looks cool. It does give us some output in the command line as well. All right, let's go back to the chat. So I've left about 15 minutes before I have to end the show for chat. So I hope I can get through everything before I have to end it. And where did I do that? Oh, okay, so I ended about there in the chat, about 6:46 my time. There we go. Okay. And I didn't really display what's changed in our package JSON, so I'm just gonna put that up here. Really, the dev dependencies changed. We have Cypress and our ESLint plugin for Cypress. And all the stuff with like Mocha and Chai and Puppeteer are gone. All right, so let's get to these questions. Abdullah says, I am fresh to programming and I don't know where to start. Check out freeCodeCamp.org and just start out with some of the lessons there. It's totally free. Just create a free account, and like FreeCodeCamp's never going to try to sell you anything. We're not going to spam you with ads, nothing like that. So just check it out. Start doing some of the lessons there and see how you like it. WebNoob says, in response to Creative Girl's question about Flexbox and Bootstrap and Grid, says everything is important to learn. Yeah, I mean, ultimately, yeah, it's great to know everything, but I would say like don't get overwhelmed thinking that you have to learn everything. You definitely don't. You know, if you just pick something and learn it, you're fine, right? So I would just try not to be anxious about what to learn first, and in what order. Uh, just learning something and being able to work with it is great. Like a ton of websites use Bootstrap. If you just know Bootstrap, there's a ton of work out there. The same way, like if you just know Flexbox and you don't know Bootstrap or Grid, you can still do a lot of awesome things. Like so, basically, my point is like as long as you're learning something, you're good. You know, you're already going in the right direction. You know, and you'll learn more eventually. It just it takes time. Jemmy says, guys, please can you help me out? How can I animate a button on long press? Um, I'm not exactly sure. That'd be something I'd have to look up myself. So I can't give you an answer right now, but maybe somebody else in the chat can. WebNoob says, hey Jesse, are you teaching your kids in programming? Can't wait to try it with my son. Yeah, so actually I do. So we have like some little kid programming books that we read to the kids sometimes, and we have I'm trying to think what it's called, Tinker. So we have a Tinker subscription. So I think it's like tinker.com or something, and they have coding exercises for kids, and so my kids do that. So we've tried out some other ones too, but my son, especially my oldest, my 9-year-old, seems to really like the Tinker stuff, and he works on it all the time. So yeah, so we're trying to teach him, and not like pushing them into it, but just kind of providing them with books and like lessons and stuff, so it's there if they want it, and they're just excited about using a computer. So if I tell them like, well, the only way you can use computers if you're doing the coding stuff, then usually that's enough, and they do it. Let's say Rishba Bob. I'm really sorry, I'm not pronouncing your name right. But it says, are you using the Windows subsystem for Linux? Uh, no, so I am using Bash on Windows, but I'm not. I haven't done anything with the subsystem yet. Zah Gaming says, hello everyone. Hey, how's it going? Let's see. Oh, cool. So Michael Creel answered my question about the button, and unfortunately I didn't look over to see that. But thanks, Michael. It basically says, from Stack Overflow, this component has limited options, so you can't resize it to a fixed height. All right. So so that is true. So basically we did have to switch the button over to a touchable opacity in order to basically change anything except the color and text. For Fergentius says, are you doing the mobile or web? Yeah, so right now we're doing web, but we're gonna switch it over to mobile. So let me give you an update on that actually. So I'd like to use Expo to help us test and build the mobile versions, but unfortunately, so all right, let me give some background to explain this. So like Expo just has its own fork of React Native, right? And it allows you to create React Native apps more easily. It comes with a lot of built-in things to like developer tools and like different components that work with like hardware on a phone, on a device. So I'd love to use Expo because it comes with all that. But since Expo has its own fork of React Native, it's behind a little bit, so it's not the latest version. So the latest version of React Native allows you to use React hooks, which we are using, right? But the Expo version of React Native doesn't yet support hooks. So if we tried to use Expo right now, we would have to switch to not use hooks, and that would be a lot of refactoring, and I don't want to refactor it back to that. I'd rather use hooks. So the plan is this. I'm going to keep developing the web version. I'm going to keep the mobile styles in mind, like by using DevTools and mimicking the phone, right? But we're not actually going to test it on a device. We're going to wait for the next update to Expo, which should allow us to use hooks. Then we'll pull in Expo into our project, and we'll be able to run the web version and the mobile version, the mobile in a simulator, side by side, so that we make a change, we can immediately see how it impacts both the web and mobile versions. So hopefully that makes sense. We could just use straight up React Native and run it like that, but like I really do like everything, the additional stuff that Expo uses, so I'd rather just wait on that. If it seems like it's going to take a really long time, then maybe we'll rethink that strategy, but that's where I'm at right now. So the mobile's coming. We're just kind of waiting on the next Expo update. If anybody knows, like, if you've been keeping track of the updates to Expo and you have some insight into when that's going to happen, let me know. Last week or something, I did read up on it. And at least at that point, I don't think there was an exact time for the next release. Saeed says, love you, bro. Oh, thanks. I love you too. Let's see. Vedant says, this channel is great. Manu says, well, thanks, I appreciate that. Manu says, please suggest, all right, hold on, let me read this question. It says, I'm intermediate in JavaScript, but I can't build up logics. What should I do? I check out some of the more advanced JavaScript problems in freeCodeCamp. So freeCodeCamp.org, I check those out. I know I keep recommending freeCodeCamp, but it's quality stuff and it's totally free, right? If you feel like you need more, then maybe go look at some of the paid things out there. But freeCodeCamp's always a great place to start. There's always links to additional resources on the freeCodeCamp lessons, so you can go and read more if you want to. But I would say, yeah, check those out. It's going to give you some algorithm problems. And practice is really, that's how you build up your skills. So just keep at it. It'll be tough. It's tough for me to do the algorithm stuff and kind of the more advanced like logic based stuff, right? Because as a primarily like web mobile developer, you're not doing a lot of algorithm based stuff, so you don't normally get practice. You kind of have to go out of your way to keep up and practice that stuff. JM says, have you ever told your YouTube audience about how you got into coding, your challenges, obstacles, how you got your first job, etc.? It would be of interest to us newbies. So I have a little. So check out my YouTube channel. The link is in the description. I have done some videos on like my background and how I got into that. So go ahead and check that out. If you check that out and like there's something more specific you want me to talk about, let me know, and maybe I can make a video about that as well. But yeah, that's a good question. And so I do have kind of a basic overview of how I got into coding. So that should kind of highlight a lot of that. Oh, goodness. Somebody said in response to the question about building up skills and logic and stuff, somebody gave the response of just give up if you can't build logic, then coding's not really your thing. So number one, I would say please don't do comments like that. We're trying to help each other out. So I don't really want comments like that. Let's keep it positive. Secondly, like I'm gonna say it again, like practice is the difference between people that can do things and people that can't, right? There's not like, some people do have more natural ability one way or another, or maybe their background gives them more ability, but it's still, if you practice, you can get there. So if something is really hard, that doesn't mean you should give up, or it doesn't mean you can't do it, right? It just means you need more practice, right? That's it. So yeah, don't give up. If this is what you want to do, then keep at it, right? And like, just don't get discouraged. It's easy to say don't get discouraged, but just realize that like everyone goes through times where they feel like they just can't figure things out. Like I was working on a bug on my work project and trying to get something to work for like over a week, just trying and trying, and everything I tried just didn't work, and I just felt like I was never gonna figure this out. And then I did, and it works. It was awesome, and my team was excited. And my boss took me to his boss and said, "Here, demo this thing," right? And it was awesome, right? But I really thought, just like 2 days before, I was like in despair of ever finding a solution, right? So it's just like, keep going, and you find a solution, right? I think people that have been doing this for a long time realize that you will always find a solution eventually. So don't give up. So, but just in general, everybody try to keep things positive here. There's enough depressing stuff out there in the world. I don't want this stream to add to that. Okay. Ikram says, anyone know any materials about music recommendation systems which could be helpful to my college project? I'm really sorry. I don't know anything about that, so I won't be able to help you. Hopefully somebody in the chat can. Alright, so Jay says, I'm confused between Android and React. What can I start for job purpose? Okay, so React is used normally for web apps, right? React Native can be used for Android apps. So you could start out by just learning React and then transition into React Native to build things for Android as well. So it kind of depends on what you want to do. If you just want to be an Android developer, then maybe you just learn Android development and just don't worry about React at all. But React is going to allow you to develop things for more devices, more platforms. So that may be a better path for a job, but like it just kind of depends really on what you want to do. Amon asks, can you use React navigation with React Native Web? So the navigation is a little bit tricky. So you can use any navigation that will work on the web with React Native Web, but when you want to also do it on mobile, you'd have to have an alternate navigation system that would work with mobile. So I'm working with navigation systems on another project right now that's React Native Web, and so right now for the web navigation we're using React Router. But for mobile, it's really like we have no mobile navigation system set up. We're just kind of using state to navigate. So like that is a little bit tricky. I don't know of a navigation system that would work for both as of right now. I'm hopeful there is one because I'd like to use it. But to be honest, I need to do more research on it as well. All right. I mean, listen, I do want to say, like, so I can see the conversation from earlier that kind of took a wrong turn there is going on. So everybody just kind of like chill. So they don't like, you're cool. Just like kind of like, please don't tell people to give up. And then everybody else that's getting on Vedant, like, let's just be cool about it too, right? Like, and let's kind of just let it go for now. All right. Okay. Michael Creel says, regarding coding with your kids, have you tried Scratch? Yeah, so we have done some stuff with Scratch. That's really cool. So if you haven't done anything with Scratch, even if you're an adult coder, like check it out. It's actually pretty fun. It's kind of like a drag and drop coding interface. It's cool. Michael says, if you have an Android device, you can plug it, put it into debug mode, connect it to your computer, and then DevTools can let you interact live with your phone. Yeah, we have done that. I've done that before. So yeah, we may end up doing that. But I want to do something in a way that everybody can see it on the stream. So I don't want to run stuff on my device. Let's see. Oh, cool. So Amon is researching navigation system that works on both. Okay, cool. I'll if you find anything, let me know. I definitely wanna know more about that. Oh, okay. Michael Criosa is saying that it shows up live in DevTools. So maybe that might be something we could do where I could test it on my Android. It would show up live in DevTools so y'all could see it as well. Okay, so maybe we'll have to do that. Robert Boy asks, best language to learn for beginners. It depends on what you want, really, what you really want to learn. But assuming you have no preference for what you want to try to do, I'm going to say JavaScript because you can run JavaScript in a browser. And you don't need anything special on your computer, right? So try that out. Like if you know you want to do something different, like if you're not interested in web development at all, then like don't mess around with JavaScript, right? But if you think you might want to do something that has to do with web development, then go with JavaScript because you're going to have to learn it at some point anyway if you want to do web dev. Okay. All right. Okay, so I went over a little bit, but I did get all the questions in. So anyway, guess we'll wrap things up now. I feel like I'm forgetting something, but I think we did everything. All right, so thank you all so much for watching. I'm not going to be able to stream on Friday because I'm going to be at a conference. So I'll be at the Stir Trek conference in Columbus, Ohio, here in the U.S. So I believe my talk from that conference is going to be online. So whenever it gets posted online, I'll mention it in the chat. And I'll probably post it on my social media and stuff. So if you liked what you saw here, subscribe and check out my channel and my social media and stuff. Links are in the description. If you have suggestions for what I could do in the future, let me know. If you want to contribute to this project, feel free. You can add issues, you can submit pull requests, like the project's totally open source. if you have any other questions that I didn't get to today, you didn't get a chance to ask, put it in the comments. Send it to me on social media. I'm happy to help. So I guess I'll see y'all next week. Until then, have a great week, and thanks again for watching.